Hello and welcome to the official Sea of Thieves podcast. I'm John McMurtry, head of video production here at Rare, and today I am joined by, let's go around the table and introduce yourselves.
Drew Stevens, production director.
Shelley Preston, associate design director.
Christina McFairhome, head of community and communications.
Amy Jones, senior producer.
Awesome. And today, this is the season 15 podcast. So we're going to talk about season 15. But before we get into season 15 and all different bits of that, let's talk about something very special that happened recently. We had the Sea of Thieves 7th anniversary. So that's been 7 years of Sea of Thieves so far. We're into year 8. We've obviously introduced a ton of stuff over the last 7 years. Any highlights for anyone? Like, if you could pick one thing, you're like, I'm so glad we added that into the game. I'll go to you first, Shelley.
Oh, you guys doing? Can you not see the thinking? I'm like,
Pick one.
oh my God.
Think of all the stuff we added in year 1 alone. That was massive. Like,
I think anniversary update for me still feels like that moment in time where it felt like Sea of Thieves really came into its own of what we kind of felt like we were really expressing what Sea of Thieves could be at that anniversary moment. But honestly, it is really hard to pick a favourite because everything we do, I think we're always better in the game, and everything's a highlight in its own way.
mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Drew? Any highlights?
Even though I'm picking the same thing as Shelley, I think the first year anniversary was such a moment in time for us. We launched, we had all of that feedback around, low content, and it took us a year, but that anniversary update with the tall tales, with hunting and fishing, and then we had the arena as well.
Yeah,
it was such a sizable update, and it just lifted the experience, the sentiment. It was just, I was working on the team and also managing multiple things at the same time, so it was kind of a big standout moment for me.
What about you, Christina? And don't say anniversary.
You can say anniversary if that's what you think.
I didn't work here when Anniversary Update launched, so I came in just after. So for me, I really liked season 5 because you could do fireworks and sitting, and they are two of my favourite things in Sea of Thieves and in real life. So I'll go with that. But it was a really cute update. It introduced the party boat cosmetics, and I just the community immediately latched onto the spirit of it. So I think that was a really good moment. That was really nice. That was December, I think. So it's a good festive moment as well.
Like diverse things that we've added, right?
Yeah, and we've just of course we can sit on stools now. But I just remember seeing so many pictures of pirates on stools, being like, "This is wicked." I was like, "This is why I love this game." It was good.
What about you, Amy? Any highlights?
I'm biased because I worked on it, but I think captaincy is still something that I love. I love sailing and looking through my spyglass and seeing a ship on the horizon, getting the banner, seeing the names that people have chosen for their ship. I love the sense of ownership that you can have over you. You can make it like a little home when you're on the seas. And it was so great to be able to give the players something they wanted for such a long time, but with naming ships as well.
Yeah.
What's your ship called?
Sloopsy Daisy. Of course it is. That's the reaction I wanted. Exactly that.
And Shelley, obviously you've been working on it from right at the very beginning. Like, how does it feel?
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be over 10 years.
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
Yeah. Just incredible. Like, obviously, when you set out, you never really dream that you'll be like 10 years on and still being able to create Sea of Thieves and for it to mean so much to people. And like it's honestly just a real privilege and just a joy to see, like with the 7th anniversary, seeing the community and how people responded and the kind words and the kind of outpouring of love that we saw. It really does mean a lot.
Amazing. And obviously this year also marks another anniversary for the studio, this is Rare's 40th anniversary this year. I believe in August.
There or thereabouts.
There or thereabouts. So I just want to get some thoughts from all of you. Like, what does it feel to be working in a studio where you've got this massive heritage? It's now 40 years on. Drew, I'll go to you first.
I think it's incredible to know that we're part of a studio with such a rich heritage. And even though we're all actively working on Sea of Thieves, even when you go and talk to people within the wider organisation, everybody references all of the old Rare back catalogues, and they're all like, "Oh, I love the fact that you're working on Sea of Thieves, but also I loved playing Conquer and loved playing Banjo from back in the day." But yeah, it's great to be part of a studio that's got this kind of impact and heritage over the years.
Yeah. What about you, Christina? How do you feel?
Oh, it's amazing. Like I grew up playing Rare games on the N64, especially. So I remember when I first told my brother I got this job, and he was like, that's the little logo that spins around when we played GoldenEye for all of our childhood. I was like, yeah. And then when we released GoldenEye onto Xbox Game Pass a couple of years ago, it was like a dream come true. And obviously Sea of Thieves is incredible, but the amount of, just the sheer like legacy of Rare and the weight of every single IP it seems we've worked on is incredible. It means, everything means so much to sort of, you speak to one person in the org and they're like, oh, I love Banjo, and then someone else like, love Conker, and then like someone will mention Jet Force Gemini, which is a little before my time, but it just like people associate RR with like their childhood, some of the best moments of their lives, which sounds quite dramatic, but actually like genuinely, I think especially what Sea of Thieves did for people during the pandemic, even bringing folks together, like it's really special, and obviously the future's looking bright too, so good times.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, so obviously knowing how much the studio has changed in the last 40 years, and obviously the whole industry, like, what kind of excites you about the future? Shelley, I'll go to you.
Ooh. To me, that's something that's really cool about Rare, is that we do have this rich heritage, but we're always looking to the future. Like, we're still looking forwards, and we've got that, obviously, that solid foundation, and there's a lot of love here for that, and a lot of kind of talent within the studio, but we're always looking ahead. And I think just the fact that it feels like we can continue to create games that people absolutely fall in love with. That's what excites me.
Awesome. So there's been a few things happening since the last podcast. One of those has been we had a rather lovely community weekend. Christina, I think you've got some info about how that went, what went down, any cool things coming out of that?
It's a very light bit of information, but I do have some.
Yeah.
I've got some. So almost 1 million hours of Sea of Thieves was watched over the course of community weekend, which is incredible.
That's cool.
That's a lot of hours. I should have worked out beforehand,
Not
like
by
how
one
many.
person.
Yeah.
Let's just
No,
specify.
I should have worked out how many like years that would be an equivalent. Someone do the maths, calculate it. It's just a lot of time, which is great. Obviously, we had lots of amazing screenshots and videos of people at our kind of picture walls. There's a new one.
Yeah.
The Reapers have been active.
Emboldened.
Emboldened. More on that later.
Get to that
Emboldened, but
later,
also
yeah.
happy to just get in
happy
on
to
community.
celebrate.
Come have a selfie.
And then we also had our cake hunt as well. I can talk about it now because we were kind of keeping it on the down low, but thousands of people, I didn't get the exact figure, but thousands of people have now scooped a very cute title. And then we had a little bit of a extra bit of shenanigans on our website as well, and a few more people have also gone and scooped that title too. So it's the Seeker of Sweet Treats and the Seeker of Secret Sweet Treats, which is a mouthful, like most sweet treats should be. But yeah, no, really great. And then also must say thank you to everyone who was working in our live up team who made it such a kind of stable experience, especially our pirate storytellers too. It was an absolutely cracking event with lots of different parts, loads and loads of players. And it was smooth sailing, so it's good times.
Saw some people asking for the little cake as a trinket, which I thought was a very cute idea.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
You were also streaming during community weekend,
Yes,
weren't
we
you?
were, yeah. Lots of people watched and tuned in. It was really, really pleasant.
Really pleasant.
It was acceptable. But no, it's great. We have a lovely new streaming space in the studio, which we're intending on using a lot more. Now it's set up and we don't have to bother you to shift everything around in the tub and every time we want to go live. So we've sorted that out. It just means we can go live whenever we feel like it.
Awesome. Anything else about community weekend in there that you want to talk about, or is that?
Well, not necessarily community weekend related, but obviously with the February launch, we had a lot of pig
Oh yes, of course.
photos, and I've actually fetched some pig facts and
Pig
information.
facts.
So I've got to just hide it all from you so you don't cheat. So we've collected the top 10 names of pigs in Sea of Thieves since they launched. I think towards the end. I think it was for the first 3 weeks.
So this was pet pigs going into the Pirate Emporium.
Pigs in the Pirate
so people can
Emporium.
buy pet
They've now got outfits, which are very cute.
They're very cute outfits.
Very cute outfits. But I wondered if you guys wanted to guess at some of the top ones, because it
Sure.
feels like fun that won't go wrong. So,
Oh, Amy?
Yeah, I'm guessing Kevin Bacon's in there somewhere.
Oh, that's... No.
not in the top 10. Kevin, it was close. It was top 20, but wasn't in the top 10.
Percival? There's no Percival.
No.
Pig.
What about pork chop?
But Percy was in top
Percy.
20, but not quite there.
Pork chop?
5th.
Oh, fifth.
That's it. You got one? Do you want some clues?
Captain
Come on,
something. It's
come
got to be
on.
like Captain Oink or something. No.
Is there just bacon? Like, are people being very inappropriate?
Bacon, yeah, and that's number 2.
Oh,
so
bacon.
just
What, just bacon?
Just bacon.
God, it's
Yeah.
less imaginative
If I say-
than Captain Bacon.
If I say like Captain Bacon. I feel like
We have that as a
should be-
title added.
Yeah.
Please.
Like, I'll give you a hint. Like, think Lion King.
Oh, Pumbaa.
Yeah, that's number 3.
Ah,
yeah.
all right.
We should have all got that, shouldn't we?
Number 4, Chris P. Bacon.
Crispy.
I've seen a crispy bacon, yeah.
And then also 6.
That's really cruel.
Yeah, it is. 6 is John Pork, and I had to explain what John Pork was.
You need to
to my
explain
team.
it to me. I
Yeah,
don't
It's
know
a-
as well.
elaborate.
It's a really cursed meme. It's the only way I can describe it.
Oh, no.
If I had a device, I would Google it and show you. If you're watching at home, Google it.
John
It's a lot.
Pork.
Safe?
It's a lot. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like safe work. The number 1 is. Don't ask me to explain it because that's not safe for an ESRB T for team game.
And it's number 1.
the number 1 is Hog Tour.
Hog Tour.
Yeah. And I'm going to leave it there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you've done the maths on that, haven't you? So we also have Porky.
That's good.
Then we've got Truffles, Wilbur,
Well,
literary classic, obviously Charlotte's Web, and then
That's quite sweet.
and then Waddles.
Waddles.
There you go. Yeah, no, I didn't do my research on pigs there. And then the most popular pig. Does anyone want to take a guess in terms of what's been bought the most?
I'd assume the bright pink one because it's
yeah, the kind of classic
Yeah.
pig.
Classic pig.
Wrong.
Truffle?
Yes.
Ah.
And you know, we have a suspicion it's because it's got the cutest little eye patch.
It
hasn't
does have a very cute
Truffle.
eye
So
patch.
Truffle is Truffle's most popular one. So there you go.
I like that. We should bring that in for every podcast, a little pig quiz.
Consider it done.
Pig facts every
will-
season.
I'll be the pig fact segment person.
I like it, yeah. No longer community, we'll just pig facts.
Just
Pig
change your
person.
title.
I'll just slowly evolve as well. Snouty.
yeah, your headband with some little ears on it.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
All right, okay. Let's chat about season 15 since this is the season 15 podcast. So
Get back on topic.
So we are like just over halfway through the season now. Let's chat about what we introduced in the first update. So, Drew, what have we actually added in season
What
15?
have we added since the first season? So, yeah, the first season was our expansion to the Hunter's Call, and it was our fishing voyages and a load of new rewards and commendation and achievements to go and unlock as part of Hunter's Call.
Cool. And then in the most recent update, what have we added, Shelley?
We've added the hunting spear
Yes.
and some life in the world with the jellyfish and the seagulls that follow your ship, the bats when you go into some caves, and the little lizards as well.
And by the time this podcast goes out, we'll be very close to the next update where we're going to be adding...
It's like time travel.
where we're going to be adding...
The ability to go on hunting voyages. So you can go hunt for the megalodon and you can go hunt for wild boars. And you'll also find wild boars emergently on islands as well.
So as we've just sort of gone through there, we've been staggering releasing the features. Rather than them all being up front at the beginning, they've been spread out across the season. So Drew, do you want to talk a little bit about, why we've done that and like what we were hoping to get from doing that approach?
So we kind of talked about this. I think we kind of hinted to it back in December, but when we got into the January dev update, we kind of talked about it a bit more in earnest. And the goal here was primarily to try and slow the rate of change arriving in each update. Previously, we would have dropped all of the season features in the first month. And while there's a lot of features for players to jump in and get their hands on, there was so much change introduced in that build that us trying to keep in control of things like performance, things like stability was just becoming a challenge. So one of the primary reasons was to slow the rollout of season 15 was for us to be able to keep in control of that. The second bit was also to try and see if we engage players differently across the season. There's something to look forward to in month 1, but don't worry, there's also some interesting features landing in month 2 and month 3. So we kind of staggered out season 15's features to try and make that like 3 little pockets of interesting
Pockets
stuff.
of joy.
Pockets of joy, there you go, during the season. And like from a did this thing work perspective, like season 15's launch in February, we certainly were able to get in control of the features that we were delivering. We introduced a load of performance improvements for the Guardians of Fortunes team. And generally, we've got a really stable build that arrived in February. We've seen the value in separating these things out. We know it's the right thing for us to be doing right now.
Yep.
We've also committed to doing that for season 16 as well. So when season 16 launches in May, that update is going to be spread across May, June and July's update calendar. So we're committing to that for now, and that's going to be the way that we run it. We've not got any early data to see whether the performance and how players turn up each month has changed materially, but we're going to stick with this for the rest of 15 and into 16 for now.
Awesome. And sentiment-wise, in terms of the community, Christina, like how have they sort of reacted to this staggered approach?
It's really interesting because I think what Drew's called out is that kind of challenge, which is the rate of change. That always had a big swell moment. It's like, okay, you go into the sandbox and it's, really changed. But actually what this gives us is, like Drew says, a way to kind of slow that rate of change, keep things a little bit more stable, but also for us, it also gives us a little bit more breathing space and time and thoughtfulness in how we go talk about each specific thing, like hunting spears and little guys, as I like to call them. They get their moment in the sun, which is really great. Whereas previously they might have been kind of like, they might have gone under the radar a little as something part of a much bigger package. So I think players really appreciative of that. I think for us, it gives us more opportunity to spotlight all the cool, slightly smaller, less headliney bits and pieces that go in. But I think broadly sentiment's been great. I think going back to Season 15's launch, that was really noticeable for us in terms of it didn't feel like everything was on fire. We were kind of discussing before the podcast that actually what we had to do afterwards was just a little bit of admin on some kind of rep clawback and whatnot, which is a much different place to be in after Season 14's launch, certainly when we were turning things off left, right and centre and kind of hot fixing for weeks on end. So I think players have really appreciated how things are landing. I think they have had a noticeable difference in not just kind of the stability of the build as we introduce new things, but the perf changes. I think I actually wrote this down because I was kind of thinking about it. But when something like perf is a bit rough, people talk about it.
Yeah.
When it's good, they don't. But ours has been that good that they have. Like the changes have been that. The step change in how noticeable and how smooth the experience has been super, super noticeable, especially for our creators who are playing the game for hours on end. So I think there's a lot of good coming from the new team, but also kind of more evenly distributing stuff allows us to kind of give that spotlight, slink it in, just, I guess, minimise risk, which is a really boring thing to say, but also really great from a player experience perspective.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of all the things that we've added in the Season 15 then, let's go to you, Shelley. What's been your favourite thing that we
That was a
added?
curveball because you were looking at Drew and then you went, let's go to you.
And Shelley.
I think I'm going to say, and this is probably an unexpected one, but I really love the fishing voyages. I've always been a fishing fan, not IRL, just in Sea of Thieves. And I think obviously something that was a more emergent kind of less directed activity. Being able to wrap that in something that feels more intentful and has that more, you can dive to it, you can have that void structure wrapped around it, plus the new fish look awesome. And just that tying in with all the new unlocks for progression in Hunter's Call, I've really enjoyed that kind of loop as a player. But I do love all of it, it's great.
Yeah. What about you, Amy? Any favourites from Season 15?
I mean, I like that Delric's an outpost now. Delric, I'm a fan of him. No, just generally, I love the Hunter's Call. I find it such a peaceful part of the game. Like, I love going on with a few friends and just, fishing and just hanging out. And that being something that's easier to progress and become just a bigger part of the game. It feels right. And I'm glad that it's got its moment in the sun. And I'm glad that it continues to be developed and expanded on.
Yeah. From my perspective, it was kind of cool to sort of reinvigorate Megalodons because it's such a cool part of the game and it's been in there for so long that people can almost forget that they're there, and to have these new ones with the new abilities and such was cool for the marketing assets.
You don't get a favourite bit of Season 15.
No, but it's just when you've said that, it just occurs to me that my favourite thing is when we introduced the electric ocean crawlers back in the day, that we talked about them being on ships like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And actually that's come to fruition via...
It was in the Pirate's Life trailer.
It was. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. So the fact that that's come full circle and that happens now, and that fundamentally changes the session when you're like, who are you? That's not... What are you doing on my ship? It's great.
So we've kind of talked a little bit about it, sort of hinted towards the work that's been on, but let's talk about the work that you're doing, Amy, in the Guardians of Fortune.
So yeah, Guardians of Fortune, we are focused on game health, whatever that might be. So quite often that would be there has been a regression of some sort. So for example, we're talking about March's release, we're seeing an FPS regression. So currently my entire team are scrambling looking at that. It could be that there is an exploit that's come up or a bug that's causing a lot of pain but doesn't fit neatly with one of our feature teams that we go after that. We spend a lot of time talking to community and finding what players care about, what's kind of causing friction, what's spoiling their experience, and making that better. Basically, we want the game to be as good as possible, and we will kind of have remit to go and explore and figure out how we can do that. So it's very wide ranging, it's very reactive. Every release I'm kind of like, steel yourself, people, because we know there's going to be probably some things that come up that have been resurfaced due to kind of new features coming in, or have regressed, or have just like a knock-on effect from something else, and we kind of jump on that and try and improve that experience as quickly as possible. But it's a fun team to work on. There's a lot going on. It's hard to plan for the future, although I will talk about that in a second, kind of what we are planning on doing. But generally, just we love the game and we want to make it as healthy and shiny as possible.
Yeah. So before we get into talking about what you guys are going on to work on, like what you're planning, what are some of the things that have been brought in more recently that your team's worked on? Right.
So over December and January, we kind of had a team-wide perf bash, as we called it internally. So that was people from a number of teams, so across the game teams from Engine and then the Guardians as well, focused on various areas of performance and improvements that we could make. So a lot of this was investigations. We have a big kind of laundry list of things that we're going to keep chipping away of, but then with some bigger pieces of performance work. So most recently, we've been looking at just items generally, items in chests, kind of making it so that they're not putting as much stress on the server. So it's just, you interact with chests quite a lot in Sea of Thieves, like it's a pirate game. Chests are fairly fundamental. So just making sure that that's the smoother, nicer experience. We've been looking at the physics of floating items. Again, it's quite a lot of water in the Sea of Thieves. And just making sure that, again, it's not interrupting anything. It's not kind of, it's not taking away from the things that players want to do with kind of things that are in the background, if that makes sense. We've been looking, what kind of a long-standing issue was storage container hitches. So kind of going into a barrel or a chest and there just being a hitch on it, not necessarily kind of when you're doing it the first or second or third time, but if you're in a session for like 6 hours, we're noticing that the more you were doing this like cumulative effect. So eventually it was quite jarring and it was noticeable, and to people who want these lovely long sessions, it's so easy to do in Sea of Thieves, like that Rick and Morty meme, then it was becoming very noticeable and disruptive. So we have got a fix in for that. Now we've figured out the problem and sorted that. We've now noticed there are hitches kind of initially sometimes when you're opening storage, so storage containers aren't completely sorted now, but we fixed the one problem and now we've identified another one. And there's a lot of this in the Guardians. It's kind of you fix one thing and then there are tendrils and then it's kind of slight whack-a-mole, but in a fun way. So it's fine. And then we're also looking, so alongside all this perf work, we're doing a lot around exploits or kind of people being able to play the game in a way that isn't necessarily fair for other players or isn't the way we designed. So the kind of big one I wanted to call out was in Hourglass, we were noticing that people were kind of sticking their ship on the shallows. That's quite hard to say. Getting their ship stuck on shallows so that they weren't able to sink. So they should have sunk, they were full of holes, they looked like Swiss cheese, but they weren't actually kind of losing battles. So we've got a temporary mitigation in for that, which we've worked with the environment team on, and now we're doing some further work on making sure that if you should be sunk, you are sunk, no matter what the scenario.
Yeah. And Drew, I know you've spoken about this before in like dev update videos and stuff, but why was it important to spin up a team that was dedicated to look at this area?
I think historically we've tried to find ways within our teams to be able to almost bump in live incidents, bump in high priority items. And sometimes we've tried to go, well, could this be part of the feature team's next area of work? Or could it be part of the next season? And often we've just found that almost feature team is focused on one key priority area. You can try and distract them, but you're generally fighting off your actual feature that you want them to deliver as well. And we've never really cracked before that. How do we keep new features coming into the game and deal with stuff that comes in from the live environment? And we got to a point where we're going, the performance is a great example of just, we're slowly declining over time. And there's things that we should be doing and should be addressing that we're just not finding the time to. And the best way that we've been able to do that in the past in other areas is just go a dedicated team with a way to prioritize the work that just works on these focus areas. And like Amy says, it's difficult and sometimes it's whack-a-mole and it's really difficult to plan because there's constantly information coming in. But we've already seen the fruits of bringing that team together from a performance perspective, like December, January, and then February's updates were clearly showing a marked improvement in performance. Got some work to do following March's update, but it feels like a much easier and sustainable way to be able to keep the live environment performing well, while our other feature teams can almost go dark for a little bit and really prioritize and work on the thing that they're working on.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And I know, obviously, you both mentioned there the difficulty in planning in a team like that. But is there anything else that you want to talk about that is definitely that the team's working on that's coming down the line?
So in general, the areas the Guardians focus on, we look at perf, we look at exploits and bugs, and we look at player sentiment. And we kind of pick every piece of work we do, we kind of make sure it falls into one of those buckets, and we kind of prioritize based on what we think will bring most player value at the time. We're also spinning up a new mechanics sub-team as well that will focus on kind of older areas of the game, or areas of the game that could use a little bit more love that don't necessarily fit into a feature team, but that's still very new. So everything we do and everything we're planning to do will fall into one of those buckets. In terms of actual work, so one of our engineers at the moment is looking at long loading times when you come back from the ferry, especially. I know we've all been in that situation where you can hear your ship is on fire and you can do nothing about it.
So creaking, it's just haunts you. Even when you go to sleep at night.
It's haunted. So that's specifically to stop Shelley, get her some more rest.
Stop me being haunted, please.
Thank you. We have someone else looking at the merchant alliance and resource purchasing. So there's kind of been long-standing issues with crates, and we're now seeing that a little bit with hunting spears. So this will be making sure that when you purchase something, you get it simply and easily, but also making sure that if you purchase multiple things, you don't have to keep going back. You can kind of get it in one go. We've recently put a fix into Insiders for funny launching, using the ship's geometry to shoot yourself across the map in ways you should not be able to do. So my wonderful team of insiders are trying to break this for me at the moment. I think we've done okay, but that's like a good one that's been irritating us for a while, like a stone in my shoe for a while for us to get in. In terms of performance, we have a system, sandbox performance constraints, which is basically going to be looking at world events across the Sea of Thieves and sub-world events as well, and just making sure that when we want to kick off a new world event, that the game can cope with it. So you're not going to have too many things happening at once, and then your experience is bad, even though try to sell to an Ashen Lord and you can't because the game is crying. And then so alongside this, we have got loads of comprehension bugs and smaller exploits that we're looking at, but mainly there's a whole bunch of investigations going on behind the scenes. Nothing I want to confirm yet because I don't know what we're actually going to go for, but we hear all the feedback players send in, whether that's talking on social media, whether that's speaking directly to community. We work very closely with Joe from community to make sure that the right things are getting surfaced to us. And we just want to focus on the areas of the game that kind of are important to players and make them better. Like we know that player experience is so key. It's something we really care about. So whenever we're choosing what to go for next, it's in those areas. So I can't give you solid answers yet on those areas, but there are exciting things hopefully coming soon.
Amazing. So obviously knowing that there's this sort of careful balance between, making sure performance is good for players, that there's these different things. Every time we add something new to the game, there's this risk that things can go wrong. How does that affect you when you're coming up with designs? How does that affect you personally at night when you hear the creaking of the ship?
How haunted am I by that? Well, I think like when we're planning for new seasons or for new features, we always put the experience first and the ambition of what we want that experience to be.
Yep.
But then it's a very carefully considered kind of team effort and conversation back and forth with the team on what we can do to achieve the player experience that isn't going to break the game for everybody.
Who's the party people? Who says no?
It's a collective sensible conversation about because the other thing is like sometimes there are ways around things that we might not know as designers, so you don't want to assume, oh well, I'm going to assume that engineering will kind of say we can't do this. So and that's what's kind of great about our team culture, is it's that collaborative conversation of this is kind of the vision that we have, this is what we really want to build, and then we'll have a conversation. I mean, some things it's obvious that we wouldn't be able to do technically, but don't ask me for example. But yeah, I think it's just a back and forth, and we always seem to find a way to land in a place where we can do most of what we wanted to do, but just within the boundaries of the Sea of Thieves world.
So
not be too haunted.
So thinking about future seasons and what could be added to Sea of Thieves. Let's talk about Season 16. What can you tell us about Season 16? Obviously, we're not too far away from it by the time this podcast goes out.
Are we not?
Well, relatively.
Should we just dive in then?
You can just dive in, yeah.
Insider's already played.
Yeah, exactly. That's
All
true,
right then.
yeah.
That
So,
sounds
yeah,
like free reign.
Give us an overview of what to expect in season 16.
So for season 16, wind back time, bear with me.
Yeah.
Now wind back time a little bit. In season 13, we obviously saw Flameheart return and resurrect the Burning Blade. And he's been sending Reaper players out, collecting what seems to be knowledge and information from these skeleton camps, ancient knowledge and ancient information. And season 16 is going to be very much focused on the next stage of Flameheart's journey. And he is bringing back his Order of Bone and Blade, which is a new type of skeleton. Ooh. And we're going to be seeing more of where that information that you've been collecting has led him and what he's doing. It's very much Reaper focused, and players can expect to see their first voyages for the Reaper's Bones as well.
Amazing.
Very exciting.
So kind of like what we just did for Hunter's Call, giving them sort of these...
Yeah, dedicated gameplay, yeah. But of course, it's Reapers, so they will have a PvP kind of twist to them.
Spicy PvP voyages.
Amazing.
Spiceometer and the Nando's meter.
Is it?
You've got here.
Like a medium spice.
It's not a lemon and herb update. It's a big deal.
Hunter's Call is more, isn't it? Like the fishing.
Yeah.
And herb. Ancient Megs goes a bit higher.
So Christina, I see there's still lots of pink words in your notebook. Is there anything else you want
Some
to
of
cover?
that's nothing to do with the podcast.
Yeah.
No, that's
a shopping
diary.
list.
dear
Streaming
diary.
plans.
No, I've written down some things I didn't want to forget. It's probably the wrong time to mention it, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, go for it.
Because there's lots of things happening in April. The new season will land in May.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. But April's got some really exciting stuff too, so I'm just going to talk about it. So, obviously, there is a Southern Gothic tale.
Yeah.
There's been landed at some point in April. It will land on Xbox Game Pass. A beautiful tale woven by our friends over at Compulsion. And we have a set of sales in tribute to celebrate that wonderful release. So they'll be available as a login bonus from the 8th to the 15th of April. And if you buy the X edition of Sea of Thieves, which is available on Xbox platforms only, you will get a special light variant of that, which is really beautiful. From the 16th to the 20th... I've turned into the crab from The Little Mermaid. Excuse me. From the 16th to the 22nd of April, there is a Pirate Emporium discount sale. So more goodies for your ancient coins.
Buy some pigs, yeah.
Buy pigs. Buy pigs. Get an outfit or two. They're very cute. Call it whatever you want. You've had some inspiration. This podcast, you're welcome. If you go with that, you're really unoriginal, but at least it's cute. 17th to the 24th of April, Mega Stashes event.
Oh.
Where there is, in fact, a Mega Stash.
On offer.
Actual
mega mustache.
Like, I know our editorial team are going to tell me off because it's got a proper name, but it's a Mega Stash. Yeah.
Does it? I thought we were just going with mega stash.
No, it's
the mega stash cosmetic, by the way. That's one of those things that you say in a light-hearted moment, like we say it in like a meeting, right? But nobody really thinks it's real, like, because it's like, well, we're doing a mega mustache, but then we actually did do a mega mustache. So that's
what other game would do it?
That is peak Sea of Thieves.
That is peak Sea of Thieves.
Are they joking? Are they serious?
24th of April, the update where you'll get the voyages.
Hunting voyages, yep.
And then you'll get the usual bonuses as well. So you get your gold login bonus and you'll get a Voyage of a Luck. From the 25th to the 28th, we'll have some Twitch drops available for anyone watching on Twitch. There'll be the Seasoned Sailor Rapier, the Stalwart Sea Dog Cutlass, the Stormy Sea Dog Bucket, and the Rising Morning Star eye patch, which we accidentally, on purpose, shipped a little while ago.
Don't look at me.
Intentionally.
Did you
but
push
then
the button?
we realised that actually it was super popular. So we decided to put it in our Twitch drops because,
Nice.
we seeded the demand for it. So it's going to be a really busy month. And then obviously transitioning into May, we'll have lots of fun stuff to talk about in terms of what's coming next, which Shelley has just touched on. So
I've just spoiled it all. So I don't know what we're going to talk about again.
Like I say, you can play it all in Insiders, so jump in Insiders and help us test.
Insiders, yeah.
Try break some things for me, please.
Great. Well, I think that sort of does us for this podcast. So that's season 15 done and dusted, and we will see you next time for another official Sea of Thieves podcast during season 16. So we'll see you all then. Bye now.
Bye.